70 years ago, the Providence skyline looked like this. Rhode Islanders enjoying concerts at the Warwick Musical Theater. But you couldn't take 95 to get there. T.F. Green was a U.S. Senator, not an airport. And Channel 12 was brand new. Launched March 27, 1955, providing 7 decades of quality television programming, including 12 News.
In Warwick, Glenn Laxton, 12 News.
Covering memorable moments and historic events. Reports about heroes and villains, from overcoming odds to overwhelming grief. A look back at the stories.
Channel 12 is the one that tells the story locally.
And the journalist who brought them to you on this 70th anniversary. Thank you for joining us for this special look back at the history of WPRI 12 and the moments we brought into your homes over the past 7 decades. I'm Mike Montecalvo.
And I'm Shannon Heggie. We started broadcasting in 1955 in black and white and with a different name.
Ted Nesi takes an in-depth look at our own history, including rare footage from the WPRI 12 archives that haven't been seen in decades.
In the 1970s, it was News Center 12.
Good afternoon, I'm Walter Cryan.
Channel 12 is right at home with you.
In the 1980s, it was Channel 12 News.
Now, live on WPRI 12.
Later, it was Eyewitness News. Today, it's 12 News. But no matter what, it's always been Channel 12, all the way back to 1955, and the station's lead anchor back then, Mort Blender. Those were the early days of television, as hulking cameras broadcast images in black and white. But Channel 12's founders faced big hurdles to get the station on the air. The Cherry and Webb department store chain received FCC permission for a new Providence TV station in 1953, dubbed WPRO-TV to mirror its popular radio sister station. But a competing station, the short-lived Channel 16, filed a protest, leading to a 15-month legal battle. Meanwhile, Hurricane Carol destroyed the transmitter tower that was supposed to beam the new station out. Finally, at 11:45 a.m. on March 27, 1955, Channel 12 went on the air, and that first day was front page news in the Providence Journal.
Providence is a city 323 years old.
Back then, Mort Blender anchored newscasts that were only 15 minutes long, but news wasn't the only draw. Children tuned in for Romper Room with Miss Bonnie and were told to brush your teeth and say your prayers by Salty Brine on Salty's Shack. The station grew in the 1960s.
Rhode Island Governor John H. Chafee
sending news cars like this one out to cover events ranging from the assassination of John F. Kennedy to the Bristol 4th of July parade. Color TV arrived right around the same time the station split from its radio sibling and got new call letters, WPRI. This is how the newsroom looked in 1970, back when it was on Mason Street in downtown Providence. Typewriters, teletype machines, and lots of cigarettes.
Obviously, the WPRI newsroom looks very different today, and for the men and women of that newsroom back in 1970, some big changes were ahead.
In 1974, the station moved to a brand new state-of-the-art facility in East Providence, which is still our headquarters today. 3 years later, another major change.
WPRI TV 12, Providence.
As WPRI swapped networks and began a stretch as an ABC affiliate. In the 1980s and 90s, the number of newscasts kept expanding to cover breaking news.
With us right now, obviously, is Governor Dupree, who has the latest on what's going on.
Milestones.
So George Weins Jazz is back here in Newport.
And, of course, the weather.
Boy, Tony, you pegged this storm right on the money.
Well, thank you. It was a well-behaved storm.
Then in 1995, it was back to CBS.
Questions about the switch, call the Survive the Switch hotline. That number, 1-800-CBS-on-12. Be sure to ask them for a free sticker for your remote control.
And here's what's happening at this hour.
And the late 90s also saw us make our debut on the World Wide Web.
Get connected. www.wpri.com.
Politics has always been a big commitment for Channel 12 on newsmakers.
As a matter of fact, we did order the investigation of that back in November.
Televised debates.
I think Mayor Paolino should have kicked that football a little bit quicker.
The vote was 70 to 29, and I was one of the 29 to continue the filibuster.
And every election night.
Update on breaking news we told you about at the top of this newscast.
WPRI 12 has always been about more than news, too.
WPRI TV challenges you to test your wits.
In the 1980s, school children competed on Kids Quiz.
Live from Fox Providence, this is The Road Show.
And in 2009, the station launched The Road Show, still on the air today. WPRI was there in 2000 when the Tall Ships came to Newport. And we've aired the Meeting Street Telethon annually, dating back to the 1970s. WPRI's early anchor Mort Blender would probably marvel at how much has changed over the last 70 years, but he'd also see some things haven't changed, like a news team working every day to get it first and get it right.
Thank you, Ted. And no team works harder to get it first and get it right than the Target 12 investigators, a long-running specialized investigative unit that has covered the big cases, exposed wrongdoing, and taken you inside the mafia. Target 12 investigator Tim White is here now with that part of our history.
From one trial of the century
guilty
to the next.
There's still no stains on this jacket.
The Target 12 investigators have gone in depth on all the big cases. When Newport socialite Klaus von Bülow was acquitted of murder after a second trial in 1985,
Not guilty.
Target 12 traveled to his Manhattan townhouse for an in-depth interview.
It was an agonizing decision, emotionally, to decide not to testify.
Fast forward 2 decades, and Target 12 was first to break the public corruption indictment of then Providence Mayor Vincent Buddy Cianci.
I heard it from Jack White. Is he here?
Right here, Mayor.
Jack White called my office and said that there was something coming down.
Public officials in trouble with the law have kept us busy, including the federal corruption case of Rhode Island House Speaker Gordon Fox.
Well, I think you have a good idea of what the investigation.
I don't know the scope and the wherewithal of the investigation.
And the fraud investigation into House Finance Chairman Ray Gallison.
Chairman, can you tell us why you're resigning?
Talk to my attorney, okay?
In 2010, Target 12 obtained this video of a bribery payment in a federal public corruption probe of 3 North Providence town council members. When big news happens, Target 12 has always dropped everything.
What were you asked about in that interview with State Police?
What I remember, just about the events.
And dug in. The 1991 banking crisis brought us to Salt Lake City, Utah, to track the secret second life of fugitive banker Joe Mollicone.
People who were surprised to learn who he was and what he's charged with in Rhode Island.
Is that a yes?
Target 12's investigations consistently exposed wrongdoing and shined a light on systemic failures in government. The 1988 series, The Forgotten Children, revealed shortfalls in the state's child welfare agency.
That's all we knew. We knew survival. That was it.
A special report that same year examined Rhode Island's broken warrant system.
The court computer system contains more than 16,000 warrants for close to 13,000 people.
At times, Target 12 went undercover to show you government waste firsthand, like a 2009 probe into the Providence DPW.
Yeah, he's got the pads down and he's digging.
Police brass in Fall River drinking at a local pub during the day, and a local fire chief's misuse of a taxpayer-funded vehicle in department time. We also exposed a powerful state lawmaker not living in the district he represented.
Can you just stop and talk to us for a second?
You have no story here.
Okay, tell me why.
Whatsoever.
Tell me why.
No story.
Our reports have launched criminal investigations, including in North Kingstown, where former student athletes say they were abused for years.
To know that people in charge knew about it.
And then there's the long-running series Inside the Mafia, tracking the figures.
And I still got the heart condition.
Cases.
I lied about that.
And influence of La Cosa Nostra in New England. We were there for the extraordinary arraignment of mob boss Raymond L.S. Patriacca in 1981, wheeled in on a gurney to face murder conspiracy charges. And we chronicled the fallout after investigators secretly recorded a 1989 mob induction ceremony, evidence subsequently used in multiple trials.
We're all here to bring in some new members of our family. And more than that, to start maybe a new beginning.
And you can find more Target 12 coverage, including Inside the Mafia specials dating back to the 1980s, as well as our other 70th anniversary stories, all on our 12 Plus TV app. Download it for free.
Coming up, a look back at some of the faces of WPRI 12, and I catch up with legendary anchor Karen Adams.
Plus, our Tony Petrarca and TJ Del Santo reflect on some of the biggest weather events of the last 70 years. And later,
talk me through some of the moments you remember specifically when you worked with each other on a big story.
The overarching memory is I've got my guy.
Kim Kalunian sits down with a pair of 12 News veterans who reflect on their memorable moments chasing the news of the day.
I'm Chelsea Jones, and happy 70th anniversary, WPRI 12.
Hi, this is Mike Gorman, WPRI TV 12. Happy anniversary.
Happy 70th birthday, WPRI.
My formative years at WPRI were really the best ever. And might I say, 70 years looks great on you.
Christine Johnson, one of dozens of reporters, anchors, and meteorologists over the past 70 years. Some you will remember, like the late Hank Bouchard right there. The younger viewers would remember Danielle North. Of course, she worked with meteorologist Michelle Muscatello and anchor Patrick Little to anchor 12 News this morning for years. And at the bottom right there is former 1970s anchor Mark Haynes. I went looking for more in our archives and caught up with my former co-anchor, Karen Adams. Through the years, many have come through WPRI 12.
There's Jim King.
And even a pro football champion.
Hey, we found Jess Atkinson on sports.
Channel 12 is right at home with you.
Everyone from Hall of Famers Karen Adams, Walter Cryan, and Mike Gorman to Steve Avison, Barbara Hamilton, Pat Masters, meteorologist John Flanders, and so many others.
Brian Rooney, News Center 12.
Even Mr. Food was part of the 70-year journey. Over the years, I've had the opportunity of working with so many talented people, including Karen Adams, who retired in 2010. Let's see what the Rhode Island Radio and TV Hall of Famer is up to. Karen, always nice to talk to you. Thanks for taking out the time.
Well, I know I'm very busy here, so.
Karen has not lost her sense of humor.
You know, every time I'm there, I think about, I'm going to pop over and see you guys. And then the last time I was there, there's this little issue called the Washington Bridge.
Karen enjoyed covering the Meeting Street Telethon, the CVS Golf Tournaments, parades, and more.
Anchors away, my friends. Northeast Navy Band just coming by now.
We affectionately, us old-timers, call this place the Big Dozen because it's WPRI 12.
I loved my job. I don't know how many people could say they loved their job for 20-something years, but I did.
That's 12 on 12 for tonight, but there's still plenty more ahead.
Other stories that stand out to you?
Good afternoon, I'm Karen Adams. We have a developing story.
Oh, there's many. I mean, many years ago. Remember when Governor Sondland declared the banking holiday and the banks were all shut down? I mean, I'll never forget that story. Senior citizens were marching on the State House and wanting to know what's going on, and the governor was adamant we're going to get this straightened out, and we did eventually. Of course, the station nightclub fire, which was a horrible tragedy that haunts you to this day as a reporter. But there's many great stories. Election night's fun.
Well, we do project Alan Fung the winner again.
What do people not know about, WPRI 12 that you want to tell them?
I think in my time, I don't think they realized the great camaraderie that we had. We worked as a team.
Karen, you were really one of the pioneers of not just sitting at the anchor desk, but getting off the anchor desk and going into the community.
It's just a big part of my life. Our ability to be out there in public and people know who we are and we can lend a hand or help a cause, then we should do that.
No one has sat at this anchor desk longer than Walter Cryan. It's just a privilege to occupy his spot. When he retired back in 2000, he told Karen that one of the most memorable stories was the banking crisis.
Not only in the studio, but outside on the street when they tried to shut down Route 95. A whole group of senior citizens practicing civil disobedience.
For Walter and Karen, going into your home every night was a privilege.
12 News, where the news comes first.
Any regrets about retiring?
No.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving me a wonderful life. Thank you very much.
I loved it. And it was a hard decision at the time, but I made the best decision. I really did.
Karen, you still there?
What?
Somebody wants to say hi. Get over here. Jump in.
Is it my brother?
He can't see
There's
you.
my brother. What's
Talk
he doing
off my
all
mic.
bad like that?
Always nice talking to you, Karen. We'll talk soon. Thank you for doing this.
You too, Mike.
Okay.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
You can still see the camaraderie there. And speaking of longevity, Mike, you've been here for more than 20 years.
22, but Tony even has Walter beat.
Over 38 years, and meteorologist TJ Del Santo, 27 years. And you can bet TJ and I have seen some pretty big weather events over the past 70 years. Take a look.
70 years. You were here for, I hate to say it, more than half the time.
I've been here a long time.
Blizzard of 78. You might not be standing here if it wasn't for that storm.
You're right. It's a storm that changed my life. Literally, that storm really sparked my interest. 9 years later, I was hired at Channel 12.
National Guard helicopters flew a number of emergency flights.
We have video of National Guard coming in on helicopters to help out and trucks coming in. My father tried to get home, got stuck on the highway, abandoned his car, and went to a stranger's house that put people up.
Hurricane force winds.
Gloria, going back to 1985.
So that was the first, as you know, the first hurricane in quite some time, only to be followed up with Hurricane Bob.
And it looks like it's doing a beeline towards the Secaucet River.
So you were here then, and that was your first, major storm that you dealt with.
I remember being on the air literally 17 hours. It was just kind of a nonstop team effort coverage.
Another major event for Rhode Island, the 2010 flooding. That was probably one of the more devastating things that we've experienced here.
Oh yeah, as you know, that entire March, it just kept raining and raining. The rivers receded a little bit, and then we picked up about a 7-inch rainstorm. And to see those aerials of the Warwick Mall just completely surrounded by water.
Even came up onto 95. They had to shut portions of 95 down. Irene was a significant storm that we've had during your time here and my time here.
Tropical storm, Irene.
And Irene's fury has taken down power lines across the state.
Probably one of the more significant power outages that we've had in decades. It's not just hurricanes, even tropical storms. And of course, Sandy is another example.
Followed up just the year after.
And if we take it back, whoa!
So Sandy is another one where the outages are just incredible. And you did a lot of research down in the westerly area.
They're still recovering, I think, from that storm.
Hey, just watch the wires. Wires are down.
The recent tornadoes, and this kind of brings up the whole topic of, is our weather changing a little bit? You've been here long enough that you probably can see maybe there's some trends in how things are changing.
The one I remember the most was the night you were on the air on a weekend in November. Not one, not two, 3 tornado warnings at once. And then the most recent one in Situate.
EF2. Describe that damage. I mean, you and I have talked about this before. That's some of the most intense damage we've ever seen.
I am with our photographer, Corey, and he's right there, and he's behind me, and he goes, I want you to walk around the corner, and I want to see your reaction, because as I come around the corner, and it was just incredible, giving us an indication that perhaps we had a tornado touchdown here, but we never stop learning why storms do what they do and how to better prepare the public. And obviously we've come a long way since Gloria and Bob, a technology that you and I get to use in our entire weather team.
And Tony says a storm like the blizzard will likely happen again someday, but the better technology we have now will prevent that kind of chaos that developed in 1978.
Still to come.
It's the most impactful story I've ever done, by far.
I know what you're going to say.
Inside the most memorable stories of the past few decades, our Kim Kalunian sits down with longtime photojournalist Scott Del Sol and the incomparable Sean Daly.
And our 70th anniversary coverage continues on WPRI.com and the new WPRI 12 Plus TV app. I take a look back at the changing retail landscape across southern New England, including the back-to-back closings of Ann and Hope and Apex in 2001. Now the story of a pair of 12 News veterans with more than 70 years of experience between them.
Kim Kalunian sat down with Sean Daly and Scott Del Sol, who reflect on their years of coverage and friendship.
The word photography is writing with light. Every time you press that button, my brother, you are writing with light.
Yes. But of course, our mantra was, if you don't get it on tape, it never happened.
Well, there's that too.
But that's
How quickly do you want this, Johnny?
7 minutes.
When's dinner?
Yeah.
The big dozen, man.
This is 12 on 12.
Through the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of stuff going on.
This is Eyewitness News.
People were watching. They wanted to know what we had.
What comes to mind when I say, what are the most impactful experiences that you remember?
I actually became part-time in February 2nd of 1981. 2 months later was the longest game in professional baseball history. I was the only person shooting video that day. I think the Smithsonian wanted it, but I wanted to keep the tape. So that was kind of cool. 2 months on the job, here I am, right?
Good morning, Mayor. How you doing?
Excellent.
Your first week was Plunder Dome.
Week 6. How are you holding up? I'm starting during a corruption trial of a celebrated mayor. There was no other buddy.
I'm going to court now. I don't want to be late.
Mayor, here it is Friday after a long week. How do you keep it up? We're just wanting the stamina. Where do you get the strength?
I love my job.
But I think the evidence speaks for itself. He thought he could get away with it, and he thought wrong. The race is on. You can see that you're a polarizing figure. Really?
The most impactful story I've ever done, by far,
I know what you're going to say.
is Wendy's story.
Yeah.
It's the story of Wendy Curtis, a beautiful young photographer here at Channel 12, who just 3 months ago found out she has breast cancer.
And I never thought it would happen to me.
When I found out from Wendy that she went to some sort of gift shop or store or something like that, and somebody recognized her and said, "You're Wendy from Wendy's Story. I'm alive because of you." That is what hit me. You can do stories your whole life and never really come across something like that, and when it does, that tells you this is why, at least in part, why I do this, why I love it.
And in your time here, you two spent countless hours in a live truck working together. I mean, talk me through some of the moments you remember specifically when you worked with each other on a big story.
The overarching memory is I've got my guy. The footage will be there. Roll tape. And this man knew that. It was always there when we went back at the end of the day.
The same reason I didn't leave New England was the same reason I didn't leave Channel 12. I just wanted to stay here. So, 40 years in one place is not something that happens in pretty much any profession, let alone journalism. So, but.
Amazing careers.
Wait a minute, you just triggered something, Kim. How do I start this story? Are we out of tape?
Never. Scott mentioned the longest game. Our Patrick Little looked at the history of the Paw Sox, including sound with the late Ben Mondor, who said the team would never be for sale.
Kate Walsh spoke with political analyst Joe Fleming about the big elections we've covered. You can find those stories and all of our 70th anniversary coverage right now, streaming on the new WPRI 12 Plus TV app with in-depth coverage on WPRI.com.
People around here like to make reference to where things used to be.
We end this special with a look at some of those Southern New England landmarks and events that only exist in pictures and in our hearts. Thanks for joining us.